Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
I'm Charles.
I'm Seth.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're going to be talking about the final wrap-up of Stranger Things. So if you haven't seen that, go watch it quick. And then come right back here and get our take on the end of season 4 and what we think might happen in season 5. I'm sure some of you have some opinions on that.
When you say go watch it real quick, do you guys have time for me to get caught up on season 3 and season 4?
Well, also,
Do you have a
be
TARDIS?
prepared. You need half a day at least because
Yeah, it's not
the
quick.
ending
It's
is
not
long.
quick.
It is very long.
Yeah.
How
almost
long
a half-
is the ending of season 4?
The last, so the second to last episode is like an hour and 20, and then the last episode I couldn't even get done is over 2 hours.
Holy cow!
It's like
Yeah,
a
it's
full-length
like a feature-length movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's good though.
Oh, really?
I was 20 minutes shy. I was trying to wrap up this morning, and I have 25 minutes left.
I don't know what episode I'm on. I didn't make it either.
Boy, people are doing just whatever the hell they want with episodes of stuff now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the beauty of streaming. You don't have to just sit there in a specific time frame and stick to your 55 minutes of airtime. You can make it as long as you want. So, which I think is cool. I like the longer shows because it really gives you a chance to get into the whole storyline
Yeah.
and not get taken out by the title credits and then have to start the next one. And in honor of the show, I'm actually wearing my shirt.
Bill, have you worn anything but that shirt for the last week?
Nope. That's it.
Every time I see a picture of you on Facebook now, it's in that shirt.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
in all fairness, the first day I got it, I did do quite a few posts. So
I suppose I should say, how many of that shirt did you buy?
that
enough.
is a trade secret.
He just never washes it.
Yeah. But before we get started here and this deep dive into season 4 of Stranger Things, I wanted to mention the fact that Galactic Driftwood was honored. I guess you'd call it honored.
Very much so.
Right? We have placed on a list of the top 50 fiction podcasts. And here we are. It's on FeedSpot. You can find it, and we'll post a link in the episode description. But we've ranked 33rd in the top 50. So, it's we're not in the top 10, obviously, but being in the top 50, and they say it's the 50 best fiction podcasts on the planet.
Woohoo!
And there's got to be a lot of podcasts on the planet, right?
I mean, I feel like it's self-evident that we're at least in the top 50, but
Yeah.
Right.
it's nice to have somebody else recognize it.
So anyway, we'll post a link to that in the description so you folks can check out some of the other podcasts. But we're on there with some pretty big names. Like there's a couple of New York Times podcasts on there and such. So there is one podcast on there that's kind of strange where the guy says he his podcast is all about the fact that he fell through a trans-dimensional porthole behind a Burger King, and he's now broadcasting from an alternate dimension, which
Like
is,
you do.
I guess
Isn't
it's
that
good if
Doctor
Wi-Fi
Who?
still works over there, right? Right. So, but anyway, we are on there with some big names as well. So, check it out. Yay us. And
us.
thank you all our listeners, because I'm sure your numbers all helped contribute to our placement on that list. So, as well
Why don't
as
you could
our
comment some more. That would be fine.
yes, as well as the input from our very creative and talented hosts on the podcast.
In honor of this, we should replay our 33rd episode.
Right now, we're done. Everyone have
Yep.
a good day.
There you go. Linda, while we're talking, you can look up and see what our 33rd episode was. I'm just curious. All right, so Stranger Things. So we know Seth is a bit behind in it, and Charles and
I'm a little
Chris
behind
are-
too. Not third season. But I'm not quite to the last episode.
All right,
Oh,
all
and
right.
I'm mostly done. So
All
short
right.
of the last 20 minutes, I'm caught up.
All right.
I
Sounds
tried.
good.
I tried. But,
Well, we'll try to save. We'll try not to spoil it too
oh,
much.
Oh no, spoil it. We have to.
Yeah, I love
You're all right.
spoilers.
All
Might as well
all right.
spoil it.
Yeah. By the time you get to it, Seth, it'll all be out of your mind anyway. It'll all be new, and you'll be like, "Huh."
It'll all be out of my head by the time we do lunch today.
All
Got
right.
a very bad
All right,
short-term
well,
memory.
Yeah, right. So, Stranger Things. Well, so this season was kind of different. I like the way they approached it in the respect that everybody was kind of broken up. Our classic crew was separated in different parts of the country. One part in California, the
There's the
other
club shirt.
group still in Hawkins. And of course, at the end of season 3, Hopper.
Hopper.
I always get that wrong. Hopper disappeared. And the final scene of season 3 does kind of a pullback, and we see that he's like in this prison camp, apparently in the Soviet Union, where they also seem to have some demogorgons in captivity. And so that was rather mysterious. So that's kind of where this season starts off. He is in that prison camp, and we see quite a bit of that, of him in prison camp trying to be interrogated. He won't tell him anything, and they end up sending him to different prison camps until he finally gets to the one where they've got the demogorgons, and he's basically going to be meat for a demogorgon's feast. Right?
Yep.
That sucks.
Yeah. So they basically have this big yard in the middle of the prison, and they put about 10 prisoners in there, and they have like an area where the prisoners can go grab whatever weapons they want, with the exception of like machine guns, I think, right? They've got like swords
something like that. But what's interesting before they get to that part is there's a scene there where Hopper's sitting with everyone, and some of them don't realize they're getting fattened up for their last meal, that they're about to be fed to the Demogorgon. So they're, Hopper's over here and at the end of the table just drinking away, and then kind of starts to lay out, look, you're fattening yourselves up, you're making yourself just more juicy for it to be food. That's all this is. And then they're going to take us out there and feed us to the Demogorgon. So that is what it is. But Hopper had a trick up his sleeve at that time too. He made it look like he was drinking this bottle, but really he was stashing it away because the creatures don't like fire. Fire is like their worst enemy. So if he could get a light and something that'll burn, he can fight the monsters, which is what he ultimately ends up doing.
Right, because this is like 100 proof vodka or something.
Yeah.
He's supposedly drinking.
Yeah.
Right.
So they think he's getting wasted over in the end, and he's drowning in his own self-pity, and this is the end, guys. And
Right.
really he's just kind of faking it and smuggles out the bottle of vodka.
So
Yeah,
so are all
that
the
was brilliant.
prisoners are all the other prisoners just like, no man, you're overreacting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty much.
You love us. Look at this nice meal
Well,
they have provided.
Hopper makes he lets them have their few minutes of enjoyment, and then Hopper, like I said, he just kind of lays it out, and then everything kind of gets somber after that. So it worked out, but it was pretty interesting, and I liked how Hopper kind of shyly kind of hid away the vodka there.
Right, and then it was brilliant the way they're taking him out into the pen area to face the Demogorgon, and Hopper, purposely stumbles into like one of the lead guards, right?
Yep.
Kind of knocks him over, and of course that ensues a fight, and so him and his the other buddy that he's with in prison there, who's a Russian that was trying to work a deal for a bunch of money from
From
Joyce
Hopper's friend from
Byers.
Joyce, yeah.
They were saying, well, I think Hopper must have told him that he had like 40,000 in savings, and he said, if you can get me out of this prison, that 40,000 is yours. So of course he gives him the number for Joyce, and because Joyce has access to be able to get to that cash. And anyway, he works out the arrangements for Hopper if he can escape from prison. He's got this guy on the outside that's got a plane that's going to fly him back to the United States. But it turns out the guy in the plane is an asshole. And so the guy on the left, the far left there, he's the guy that's working the deal to get Hopper freed. And
you may recognize him as the many-faced man from Game of Thrones.
Yes, he is.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So in the right photo, you see him in his guard uniform, walking along Hopper, kind of working out the details of the escape plan. And on the left, you see him now as a prisoner because he gets betrayed by the guy on the outside who decides, hey, rather than split the 40,000, I can keep the 40,000 for myself and just turn in my partner guard as a traitor to the motherland or fatherland or whatever they call Russia. So anyway, so he and Hopper are in that prison together, and they're both going to get fed to the Demogorgon. But Hopper bumps into the guard, creates a fight, and in the process steals the guard's cigarette lighter.
Yep.
Which of course he needed to light the alcohol on fire. And
nobody else realizes this at the time, by the way. Hopper just looks like
nobody
he's trying to
realizes
get his
this.
ass beat.
Right. And so he and that guard friend of his, they both get taken off and thrown back into their jail cells while the rest of the crew get eaten by the Demogorgon. So that gives him a little.
So to punish him for assaulting a guard,
right?
They decided that he'd have to wait to be eaten.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes,
exactly. But listen, when you think about it,
Andy,
imagine living with the knowledge that you're going to
die,
eventually fed to this monster. I'd rather get it over with quick if I'm going to go. I don't want to have to sit and dwell on the fact that I'm going to be devoured while I'm still alive.
Mm-hmm.
You still knew that beforehand. His situation only got better by not getting eaten immediately.
Yeah, but now this is the first time that he's been in that prison where they've actually fed people to the Demogorgon, as I recall. And so he's got to listen to all the screams as all those people are dying.
Yeah, Linda, bring up that picture again, because I want to talk about Murray real quick.
I'd say better to hear the screams than to be making them.
Better to hear them than be making them.
Fair.
So let's talk about Murray here real quick. So as Bill said, Hopper's in this prison, and Joyce and Murray, she
recruits him.
Recruits Murray to help her get into Russia and to break Hopper out. and they're gonna follow this lead of the guy who ends up betraying them. But Murray has become this unsung hero of many talents, whether that's martial arts, or just coming in a clutch from hand-to-hand combat. We see that he's actually not full of it. There's a cool scene on the plane that is obviously there crashed behind them, but the guy that they were supposed to trust ends up tying them up, and they get loose, and there's a scuffle that ensues on the plane, and Murray shows some skills that that black belt he was touting wasn't for nothing, and kicked some butt, and it was very surprising.
Is Murray the reporter from the first or the second season?
Yes.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
So he was the crazy reporter from there that nobody really believed.
They need to give him his own show.
And fortunately for Joyce, he also speaks fluent Russian.
Yes.
Right.
So then, at one point, to sneak into the prison, he pretends to be the guy that was supposed to be making the deal, because they end up beating the crap out of him and tying him up and making him seem like he's the American. So he's got to play all Russian-like, and have all these sayings and nuances and sneak them into the prison. So Murray ends up really coming through, I think, in this season as way more resourceful than we probably all thought he could be, from physical combat to mingling with the Russians to kind of sneak them into this prison. So I always thought that was pretty good. So Murray definitely was one of my top 3 characters probably this season, because he was the biggest surprise. One of the biggest surprises, I think.
He was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and who was the guy that played the trying to find him here, the guy that played the smuggler?
Oh yeah, he was actually pretty good.
Yuri.
Yeah.
Yuri. He was played by Nikola. Oh God, I'm going to butcher his last name. Juriko. Yeah. Anyway, he was hilarious.
He was. He said the stupidest things, and he was always trying to. His main goal here was, how can I screw everybody and walk away with all the money? That was his sole motivation throughout this season. Was I can't be trusted. I'll help you, but I'm going to find a way to where I screw you in the end. I turn everybody in, and as long as someone's willing to give me a buck, I'll do it. That's kind of how much of a scumbag he is. Right.
Well, and he's got this church in this small village somewhere in Russia that he's got just filled with contraband
American stuff. Yeah.
American t-shirts, jeans.
Peanut butter is a huge thing.
Flamethrower.
He's the peanut butter smuggler.
Which coincidentally comes in handy later.
Yep.
He's the peanut butter smuggler.
Yeah, that's what he's done. Is the peanut butter smuggler. You need peanut butter? I got you.
Hey, you want some peanut butter?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
fresh from the States.
I'll add, if anything, short of the kids, there was more surprises, I thought, and more kind of short of Will, and we could talk about Will in a little bit, because Will's going through some personal struggles. But the adults actually had more surprises, I think, in terms of character development and really kind of stepping up, because the first few seasons were kind of, the adults didn't believe anything was going on and the kids were doing all the work, and now the adults are having to get in and roll up their sleeves and do a lot of the hard work. And we really saw that everyone really has to take part in this this time around. So
and so in this episode this season we find out that there's this new character, Vecna, that they call Vecna, I guess. And we also find out that he is also 1.
Yep, number 1.
Whereas 11 is 11, he is number 1. So he's the first child that they began working with in this secret government program. And
so he's really glad to get back to the real world and just start living his normal life and not cause problems for anyone or look for any sort of revenge.
Well, wouldn't that be nice if it were that way?
Of that? Yeah.
That would have made for a terrible story, though, Seth.
Yeah, we come to find out that ultimately 11 pretty much created what Vecna ends up becoming.
Oh,
So 11 was obviously when she was being raised in that quote unquote hospital. That number one was there and had been had his power suppressed. He was too dangerous, and
He was evil.
yes, he was
essentially.
evil. And through a sequence of events, he tricks 11 into taking out what he was calling a tracker. And it was really something that was suppressing his powers. And when he convinces 11 to remove it, he goes on a killing spree, basically, and kills all the kids in the place. And when 11 finds out, she basically has a one-on-one telepathy battle with him and banishes him off into what we know as the Upside Down. Well, when that happened, that's when Vecna is basically created. He's disfigured and all this stuff when he ends up in this world, but that's where he comes in contact with the what do they call it? The Mind Flayer.
Yeah.
And all the other creatures, the Demigorgons and all that. That's when number one, or as we now know, Vecna is created. He becomes part of that world, and his ambition is to, if he can kill X amount of people, I think somehow the clock's chiming 4 times is representative. If he can kill 4 people, get into their minds, he's opened up these gateways. Each time he's creating cracks within the 2 worlds, and if he can create enough, he can bust through and enter our world. So inadvertently, again, 11 kind of is who created this monster, but he was somebody that had to die anyways. So through happenstance, she sends him to the Upside Down, and he becomes more powerful than I could ever imagine.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is kind of weird because we kind of see that scene, and I don't know if you've gotten to that part, Chris, but where Vecna kind of shows what happened after 11 banished him to the Upside Down, and he's kind of walking through the terrain of the Upside Down, and he sees Demogorgons walking on the terrain in the distance, the
Mind Flayer, he sees all of that.
Yeah, and how he survived and wasn't killed in that interim time by a Demogorgon, I don't know. Maybe because of his mind powers, he was able to
I would assume that he was
safe.
powerful enough to where he could take control of all the creatures there. That was my assumption. You're right, though, because I was wondering the same thing. I was like, well, are we going to see one attack him and see maybe how he asserts his dominance over it? But you really don't see that, and maybe they'll give us some more history on that later. It's hard to know, but it was pretty freaky.
Yeah, and so anyway, it was kind of nice to see that because we'd been thinking based on things that we'd seen in season 3. That 11 herself was responsible for killing all of the children at Hawkins.
Which mentally made her feel like she was the monster out of all this.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so we come to find out the true story now this season, which was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
And then the whole story of Vecna. And so then the kids, pretty much everybody in these remote areas of the country, whether they're in the Soviet Union or California or Hawkins, they all end up trying to take on Vecna. And they manage, without actually having direct communication means, for the most part, to figure out kind of what the other groups are doing. Through various methods. And so each group figures out how they're going to contribute to taking down Vecna. And so it's kind of cool to see all these different plans going into place in these different areas of the world, and how this stuff is coming together to take out this one character. And so there's one when he's at the Hawkins lab, the quote hospital, and starting to exercise his power. You can see the blood already on his uniform there.
Yeah, it was a massacre.
Yep.
He looks pretty evil.
He is
He's
evil.
a really good
very
evil.
Yeah. So essentially, what happens is they're unable to defeat him in the end, and he takes Max. So Max is one of the 4 people that he needs, the 4 final people that he needs to open up these gateways, and he takes her and he kills her. But fortunately, 11 is there, kind of in her mind remotely, because again, she's in another part of the country, and she uses her powers to restart Max's heart and sort of bring her back.
Mhm.
But she was dead for about a minute. So I think at the end of this episode, Max is in a hospital, kind of in a coma.
Yeah. And all her
and,
limbs are broken, to be clear.
Oh,
So when Vecna does his whole thing, he destroys their mind and breaks all their limbs and leaves them in this horrible state.
And takes their eyes.
Yeah, and takes her eyes so she couldn't see.
Yeah.
So that was, that got pretty nuts. And I thought that they were going to kill multiple people, because there is another casualty during the season, which is Eddie Munson. So we
Yep.
get introduced to him, and we lose him in the same season, unfortunately. But he has an epic battle with these crazy bats, and he goes out in
Demo
an
bats, I call
awesome,
them.
yeah, demo bats. He goes out in an awesome, like heavy metal battle. So his final serenade, if you will, is they have to create a distraction, because they're in the upside down at this point, or at least one of the groups is, and they need to get into this house where they believe Vecna's body is at, because while Vecna is doing his slaying of Max, if you will, he's got to be somewhere where he's kind of physically attached to things and whatnot. So they're going to break into the house and do what they need to do. Well, while they're in the upside down, they need a distraction to get these bats, the swarm of bats that kind of protect certain areas. So he's on top of this camper, and he's rocking out to this heavy metal song, trying to attract the bats. And at one point, the distraction is not good enough, so he tries to draw the bats away by himself. And he's got a metal trash can lid with some nails, and basically kind of a handmade hatchet kind of thing, and he's out there battling them. And it was truly like an epic warrior type thing that he had going on. I really felt proud of him, because throughout the whole season, he's had this thing that whenever something really hard comes up, he just runs away. Drugs were his escape. He never really faced anything head on, and here he is battling for the survival of this town and fighting the bats head on. And to his demise, he does fall in that battle, but he served his purpose. He did what he needed to do. And so I was really proud of that, but it was still kind of sucked.
Yeah, and he ends up dying defending the very town that was out to try to kill him, because they thought he was
a murderer.
the guy behind
Worst
all
kind
these
of irony,
murders. Right?
Yeah, they thought he was the leader of the satanic cult, Hellfire Club, and that he was the reason all the bad stuff was happening, and he was behind all the murders. And they even announced that in the news in the last few minutes that he's presumed dead, and I mean he is dead, but they think he's tied to all the other deaths. So I really feel bad for Eddie Munson, and I really loved his character in this. He was very dynamic, very charismatic.
And he was the dungeon master for the group that played Dungeons and Dragons. The Hellfire Club, whose shirt I have on.
Yes, the shirt that you have, Phil.
I got to show that shirt again for Seth.
I mean, we're all just happy he's wearing clothes, aren't we?
I will. Yeah, we are. I'll have mine soon as well. I have placed my orders. So.
Nice. So I don't know if you caught this, Seth or Charles or Chris, when you watched this, but at the end, it occurred to me that you've got all of these guys, these kids that play Dungeons and Dragons, The only one that dies in the show is the dungeon master.
The only one who's died yet.
Right.
Well, true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of, it made me wonder, did they think about doing that in the beginning? Oh, you know what? Let's have all these D&D players, but only the dungeon master dies.
Yeah,
So-
He is dead, though. You saw a body for sure.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
he's definitely dead.
Oh, yeah.
He did.
Yeah, he's gone.
Now, who we don't know is maybe necessarily dead is Vecna.
Right.
I
It's
feel
good-
like
good.
he got
Well, we know he's not. Oh, maybe you don't, but we do.
okay.
Linda
Yeah,
and I know.
it could have been something in the last 20 minutes or so. So I suspect from where I stopped, I was like, wait, what happened to Vecna? So that'll probably get answered then. And
Yeah.
obviously there's gonna be another season. So
Yeah.
the
So at
other
the- so-
thing
At
Go
the
ahead.
end, sorry, Chris. So at the end, what's the last thing you saw?
the last thing
Did
I
you
saw
see-
was the hospital scene when 11 sees Max and
Okay.
that Max had survived, and they said it was a miracle that her heart,
Gotcha.
restarted again after a minute, and we know why that happened. It's because 11 was there, and to
Yeah.
be clear, for anyone who hadn't watched it, what was going on with that was, as Bill mentioned, the groups were kind of spread out all over the world, right? 11 knew that they couldn't get to them physically in time to help, but since they knew Max was the target, she could do what was called a piggyback.
Piggyback.
And to help protect Max, and she could jump into Max's mind and help fight against Vecna there. And so she did help to that extent, but she ultimately faltered a bit during that final battle, and Vecna did get what he needed out of Max. So
Yeah.
but she ended up doing her part, and they were able to defeat him in this battle, obviously not kill him. But yeah, that's what was going on with that.
So I've got an idea came to me after the end of season 4. And so to kind of flesh out the idea, I got to kind of talk about the very end. So Vecna isn't dead. And what happens is he manages to get these 4 gateways created. And when he does that, these 4 gateways that are situated in the 4 corners of Hawkins, the far 4 corners of Hawkins, they open up. And then we see branching out from them are these giant crevasses, glowing crevasses. I mean, imagine 2 tectonic plates kind of pulling apart.
And that's how they describe it. They say there's a news clip that says, and everyone's mass, exiting the town at this point. They're leaving in droves. There's horrific damage all over the town. And they say a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck the town. And so, yeah, that's what happened when Vecna was able to accomplish what he wanted to do.
Yeah. So we see, smoke billowing out from these crevasses where they've gone under buildings, and buildings have fallen in and collapsed. And the center of town, kind of where these crevasses meet, they kind of form like an X across the town. And in the center, there's all this smoke billowing up. And what we see at the end, the last scene, is kind of this rumbling thunder in the sky. And our heroes, who have now all reunited in Hawkins, kind of go up to this open field area where they can get an overview of the town of Hawkins. And they see this big cross of crevasses and this big billowing smoke. And you see the red lightning inside there, flashing within this black smoke that's coming out of it. And all of a sudden, all around them, you see these little fine white ash particles falling everywhere. And so what you can take from that is that now their Hawkins is becoming is turning into the Upside Down. And when I saw that, it made me wonder if what we're seeing here is taking place an infinite number of times across different dimensions, so that this.
Oh, are you trying to multiverse this?
Yeah, what we're seeing play out in the Hawkins we know actually played out in the Upside Down some time ago, and that they're kind of in this endless loop, and that it's going to go on for infinity if our heroes don't find some way to break out of it.
This has all happened before, and it will all happen again.
That's what
So
I'm thinking.
the only reason I would maybe, well, okay, so there is an interesting phenomenon when they're in the Upside Down and they realize that there are objects there that were there from many, many years ago. So that's when they realize that the time, that's how they figure out what time period that they're in.
Right.
There is an aspect of the time difference between the Upside Down and this. I don't know that I could get to multidimensional, but I see where you're going. And that actually brings a pretty interesting concept, is every time if one of these is opened, you know, how many different times does that happen and in what other places and what other times?
Right.
Because that Upside Down was locked to that time period.
Right.
So presumably in the current one where now the gateway is open, that new Upside Down world is locked in that time period, and you could presumably open another one to another dimension that's locked in a different time period. So
because in my mind, you know, this the Hawkins that we know is now becoming the new Upside Down for another Hawkins that's only now starting to maybe deal with 1 and 11 in that lab in another dimension Hawkins, right?
Yeah.
Which means crossover with the MCU confirmed. You heard it here first on the 33 Best Fiction Podcast.
Right. That's got to at least take us up to 32.
Right.
We broke
so
the code.
I could see then here's a spinoff idea then, right?
Okay.
Where you have these mini series, a lot like I forget the name of that other horror show that was out there, but you could have horror show. Sorry, horror show. But you have all of these different scenes in different parts of the U.S. and different parts of, or across the world for that matter, where you have, strange things that happen, and they all have elements from something of the Upside Down in them, and you could do mystery series based off of that, and each one can be unique to an extent, so long as they tie back to the Upside Down, and you could do that for a long time, and this could just be like one of the origin stories of how in this time period of the one that we're watching, they had telepaths that they knew that they were going to need to fight this Upside Down, but maybe there's a reality where they don't have that yet, so how did they deal with it? Or ones that did have a telepath that successfully was able to guard against it and shut it down. I don't know. Like, I think there could be something interesting to work with that.
I like that. I'm wondering if at the end of season 5, because I think season 5 is going to be the last season, right? From what I understand. I wonder if they'll do it in such a way that they could leave an option open for a Stranger Things movie, maybe, I don't know, 10 years down the road or something.
That could be interesting. Yeah. Where they thought it's been done and they've all moved on with their lives. Maybe bring the cast back in a decade.
Reunion.
Reunite with them and maybe there's some new disaster. Maybe the Duffer Brothers will see this and think my idea is great. And that's the way.
I'll tell you what, I would love to see like an X-Files version with just Murray.
Oh
actually, even like great. A prequel kind of thing would be pretty interesting.
Just whatever strange adventures, doesn't even have to be related, just that that character in.
Yuri and Murray.
Yeah.
So I don't think a prequel with Murray would be good. I think he should get like a series between seasons 2 and 3 of the weird stuff he's looking into while getting his black belt skills.
I think that's hilarious. And learning Russian.
Yes, that would be pretty epic.
Yeah, we could call it the Uris, Yuri and Murray.
So, do you guys know what Vecna is based on?
Jack Vance.
Who?
Charles has
It's
got
an
it.
anagram. It's an anagram for a science fiction writer that was the inspiration to Dungeons and Dragons.
Wow.
Yeah, so Vecna was one of the original big bads of the Dungeons and Dragons multiverse. Like even before there was a multiverse or a concept of a multiverse.
Okay.
Vecna was is this legendary arch-lich that who has been in the lore of D&D ever since first edition.
Oh, wow.
And
well, Seth, whatever you do, don't mention that to Benito.
Oh, Benito knows.
I don't want to face a legendary arch-lich.
Well, you know what though, that lends more to maybe a multiverse type of thing being possible, where he is the constant evil across different types of series that you could do.
Well,
in the Stranger Things world,
that is actually kind of the thing, is because Vecna like started off as a uber powerful lich in his home world, and eventually got cast into the multiverse, where he decided that not only was he going to become a god, he was going to kill all the other gods and become the only god of the multiverse.
Ooh.
And made pretty good some pretty good progress toward that goal at the end of version 2.5 of Dungeons and Dragons, and his defeat actually kind of rebooted the universe a little bit from Dungeons and Dragons 2.5 to 3 and 3.5. And there are some hints that Vecna is going to be the big bad that ends Dungeons and Dragons 5th ed.
Really?
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Anybody upset about seeing this guy leave?
Nope.
No.
So we finally get to see him bite it.
I was going to say, by leave, do you mean die horribly?
Yes.
Yeah, probably not as horribly as I would have liked.
No.
11 was going to give us the ending he deserved.
Right.
But unfortunately,
so we're showing a picture of Papa.
Yeah, so I'll fill in a gap here. So
he did die of a broken heart, kind of.
Yeah.
Well,
damaged by a large caliber weapon. So there is a two kind of opposing parties here, and one is a group, the scientists that are trying to use the telepaths to fight the Upside Down, Vecna, and the military, who just thinks that they're making the problem worse and they all need to go, and they're going to put a bullet in 11's brain. So ultimately, the military finds out where they've taken 11, because in this season, obviously 11 didn't have her powers, so they're trying to get him back. So he is responsible for helping 11 get her powers back, and knew where she would draw on the source of that power. But ultimately, the military finds out where they're doing their experiments, and comes and crashes the party, kills everybody there, including the doctor, as they're trying to escape. And that's when the group of friends shows up and rescues 11 from there. But everyone else down there pretty much bites it. Although I don't know that we saw what happened with the general and him.
We didn't.
So I'm assuming that they're still alive. They're going to come back for season 5 to play some kind of role, but the military is out to get 11, and they're not a fan of what these doctors are doing. So, but yeah. Papa finally bites it. And 11 doesn't give him the satisfaction of,
I thought
saying that
was
he's not
great.
a monster. 11 grows up and walks away and is like, "Bye, Papa." And
Yeah,
just
he's
lets
like,
him
"I did
die.
it for you. I did it for you." And
Yeah, please tell me you understand that. She's
understand.
just like, "Bye, Papa." Gets up
Yep.
and walks away.
Yeah.
So,
she by that point, she definitely knows that he would have framed her for killing all the other kids, though, right?
Well, he didn't really frame her for that.
He didn't. Well,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Well,
You guys
he
I think that's kind of
did.
left in the
it
open.
was a way of mentally controlling her to make
Yeah.
her think that maybe she did it, but he didn't paint that picture because he always knew what the truth was. And
Well, I
that was
think
that
he-
number
he-
one was the monster.
Right.
No.
So it was more of a control thing for him, but he didn't like publicly go around and was like, "Hey, 11 killed all those kids or whatever."
Yeah.
And he was right that 11 was extremely dangerous, but he was trying to get her to reach her full potential because he also knew what they were up against. So,
Yeah.
Fair.
one of the other things I wanted to cover is you discover in the season that Will has strong feelings for Mike.
11.
and that was it Mike or 11?
Well,
I
both.
figured it was more
It's
maybe
Mike.
both. I want to say it's Mike.
Yeah.
Oh, you think?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because what happens isn't so much jealousy over 11. It's that he's having a hard time sharing what his feelings are. I think if he had a crush on 11, that would be taken a little bit more differently. You'd see more competition, and that wasn't
Right.
this. This was, Will has, he's fallen in love with Mike, and at the same time, and supporting Mike because Mike's his friend.
Right.
He's telling Mike, here's how you fix your relationship with 11, or you need to know you're the glue that holds everyone together.
Right.
And you find that Will had been working on this painting. So he says 11 commissioned him to do it. I'm not sure how true that is versus him just doing this painting with Mike as kind of the leader, the glue that holds this thing together. But we come to find out that Will, it starts this it tells Mike what he needs to hear in order to kind of help him move forward with 11, and he kind of breaks down after that, trying to quietly looks away, and his brother notices that. His brother Jonathan realizes that, and there's a scene later on where he kind of reminds Will, "Hey, I'm still your brother. I'm always here for you. You can talk to me about anything." And he kind of gives them a hint like, "Hey, I know you're struggling and I know you have something to say, but I'm here for you if you want to talk about it." So this was kind of Will's coming out in season 4, and we'll see where that goes, but he's having to let a friend go that he cares for because he's in love with someone else. Doesn't maybe feel the same way about him, or likely doesn't. So that's gonna be a struggle for him.
Oh, that's very good insight. I missed that completely. I thought his
was-
tears.
yeah.
I thought he was so upset because he was telling his best friend how to mend his relationship with the girl that he
Yeah.
loves.
Then the upset part was that he's having to acknowledge that he's not going to feel the same way about him, and that's got to
Sure.
hurt to be like
Yeah.
someone that you love. Here's how you mend that.
Well, and
that's why that hurt so much, because otherwise he wouldn't be doing it, and it wasn't so much
Yeah,
out
yeah.
of like friendship. Like I said, they could take a different tone with that.
Well, I feel
but-
like there's been more than just that. There's been signs along the way.
Yeah, and he said
Yeah.
he's talked about feeling different or
Yeah.
being different.
Yep.
And so all that kind of led up to that scene, and so that scene really kind of, if you didn't get it by then, here it is now.
Right.
And
right.
so there was that.
interesting.
So it was
All
very
right.
subtle to a degree.
Yeah.
But I did like the fact that he wasn't alone.
Yeah.
In that Jonathan ultimately comes to him and says, "You can come to me about anything."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like Jonathan and what's the girl's name?
What's her
That-
name?
Nancy.
Nancy. Right. Jonathan
Yes.
and Nancy. They're kind of got three-way going on there, love triangle between
Nancy
with
and
Steve
so
and
that one's Steve and Jonathan
are
truly they're all in love with the same person, and that one's just kind of confusing and hard to know where that's going to go.
Bill, right. I cannot stress enough how different a love triangle is from a three-way.
Well, couldn't a love triangle lead into a three-way?
It can, but they are very different things, Bill.
Yeah, right. I fully agree with that. I knew that wasn't the right word when I used it, but I was grasping for the love triangle. Yeah. Point taken. All right.
Well, I thought this season went very differently than what I was expecting for a second there, Bill.
Netflix was going to kick it up a notch, is all.
That's right. Yes. Netflix after dark.
Netflix and chill.
Yeah. All right. Well, looks like we're about 50 minutes in, so we ran a little long on this one, but we did have a lot to talk about for this episode. So hope you guys are enjoying Stranger Things too. Let us know what you think. Season 5, they're setting that up. Obviously, we've got the whole potential for Hawkins turning into the new Upside Down. Vecna's still out there, and so they're going to have to take some action and turn it up a notch. And I don't know how much more they can turn it up. I mean, it seems like 11's kind of been working well beyond her capacity already, trying to fight Vecna. So it'll be interesting to see how they bring this all home. So anyway, thank you guys for coming on and talking about the episode with us. And if you guys have thoughts out there in Galactic Driftwood land, please post your comments on the chat, and we will try to answer them in a future show. So take care. Thank you all, and we will see you next time.
Later.
I think. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.